It was a typical school morning. Gina, an adventurous 8-year-old girl, sat in her classroom daydreaming about all the wonderful places she could explore. She was so excited thinking about exploring a mysterious, old and abandoned haunted house she had seen the previous day. That afternoon, after her classes, Gina excitedly jumped out of school with no intention of going back home. She ran straight to the old, dilapidated mansion, thinking of all the possibilities that awaited inside. Curiously looking around, she noticed that the door to the basement was slightly open, prompting her to enter. As Gina slowly opened the door, the creaking sound startled her and made her hairs stand up. In the pale moonlight, she could see cobwebs everywhere, and she hesitantly stepped down the stairs. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the darkness, making Gina jump with fright. Gina took a deep breath and continued her descent gingerly. When she reached the basement, it was totally dark, apart from a faint light coming from somewhere far away. Undaunted, she lit a matchstick to discover that the room was gigantic and filled with numerous antiques. She began to browse through the items, taking in all the strange objects, some of which she believed to be cursed and magical ones. Suddenly, her eyes locked on something shiny in the corner. She cautiously approached it, only to find out that it was a golden key. Intrigued by the key, Gina grabbed it and resumed her exploration in the dark. After a while, she navigated her way to an armchair that amazingly felt quite comfortable. Softly, she touched the armrest, where she surprisingly found a secret lever. Taking a leap of faith, she pulled the lever, setting off a loud clicking sound. Astonishingly, the floor beneath her feet started to move in circles. As the walls moved, a passage appeared, and to Gina's amazement, the passageway gleamed with beautiful artifacts. The corridor was more of an underground museum, full of incredible ancient treasures from various cultures all around the world. There were jewelry boxes, artwork, books, and even statues. Gina quickly picked up some gems and antiques to take home with her. Suddenly, Gina heard heavy footsteps coming from the end of the corridor. Alarmed, she quickly hid behind one of the statues. Peeking out, she saw 2 giant, menacing-looking men. Thinking fast, she quickly pocketed the golden key and silently prayed that they wouldn't notice her. The 2 men stopped right in front of Gina and began conversing in a foreign language. Unexpectedly, one of them shouted loudly and pulled out a dagger. Gina shivered in fear and instantly became motionless, just hoping the men would leave without incident. However, before she could take another breath, the man walked towards her and suddenly said in a calm voice, "Why did you take something that doesn't belong to you?" Cautiously, Gina handed him back the golden key, trembling from confusion and fear. The 2 men then proceeded down the hallway and thankfully left Gina alone. Gina, relieved beyond words, took one last look at the treasured corridor and carefully made her way back towards the exit. She tiptoed past the eerie door, but only managed to take a few steps before a loud, thundering sound shook the ground, causing the entrance to shut on Gina. She gasped in shock as the realization hit her. She was now stuck in the haunted house. All she had was her small flashlight, and she frantically switched it on as she looked around for a way to escape. Hearing voices coming from the distanced room, she immediately realized that the men had returned. Without any options, she quickly slid underneath the bed, just praying the men didn't spot her. As the voices gradually got louder, Gina could feel her heart pounding faster and louder. The men soon entered the room and advanced closer towards Gina's hiding place. Just when Gina was about to scream, one of the men spotted an antique vase and yelled in excitement. The distraction allowed Gina to slip out unnoticed as the men discussed the marvelous tiles or the pieces. Within minutes, Gina found herself behind a large bookcase, standing in front of an unfamiliar door. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed the knob and walked into a magnificent hall with pictures on the walls, statues covering the ceiling, and a grand piano in the center of the hall. As Gina gazed around in awe, two stone pillars caught her eye. To her surprise, they were covered with unique hieroglyphs unknown to her. Mesmerized, she moved closer to read them, only to realize they were instructions on how to get out of the haunted mansion. Quickly, she followed the instructions. Before long, she finally reached the exit door and quietly slipped out of the house to safety. With a sigh of relief, she hugged her collection of treasured antiques close to her chest and set off for the train station. Gina smiled contentedly as she was filled with joy from her daring adventure. Arriving home in time for dinner, Gina hid her antiques in her bedroom. That night, she wrote a detailed journal entry about her courageous escapade and secretly shared the story with her closest friends. Soon, everyone was talking about Gina's exciting, unforgettable journey to the haunted house. From that day onwards, Gina developed a great interest in archaeology and history. Her story inspired many children to explore the great outdoors and embrace their own adventures. Word soon spread throughout the town, and Gina became renowned for her intrepid spirit and zeal for discovery.